Hello, love train. How are you guys doing today? So, I just got home from work and I'm in my waitressing outfit. So, that is why I'm all dressed in black for this video. I just didn't feel like changing. So, yeah. So, we've got Beneath the Surface. Today, I wanted to talk about chapters 1 and 2 with you because I've been reading and I'm almost done with the book, honestly. I only have like maybe 3 more chapters to go and I'm done. But I did want to tell you guys about chapters 1 and 2. If you guys want to see the prologue, then click at the corner of the screen and you can see the prologue. So today, we're going to start with chapters 1 and 2. If you don't know a little bit about this book is by John Hargrove. He was a SeaWorld trainer for many, many years, worked with many, many orcas, and just when he got out of the industry, he started, I don't know, feeling really bad about what was going on at SeaWorld and going on with the whales. The documentary Blackfish, which is basically centered around the death of Don Brancho, is about whales in captivity at SeaWorld and sort of like the unethical things that they go through on a daily basis. So this book has just been kind of a follow-up. I've really enjoyed reading this book and I hope that you will enjoy reading it along with me. So without further ado, let's get into chapter 1. Chapter 1 is entitled Monsters and Other People. And basically chapter 1 is pretty simple. It just kind of starts out with, you know, John as a kid growing up in Orange, Texas. I think that's where he said the town was. And it just basically starts with he and his family taking a trip to SeaWorld to see the killer whales perform. And he just kind of talks about how enthralled with the whales he was as a child. I mean, haven't we all been just really like taken by these killer whales at one point or another? You know, I remember I went to an aquarium like when I was younger and I just thought that the killer whales were like the best thing ever. So great, you know, because they're like magnificent creatures, you know, like these bold black and white colors, and they're huge and shiny, and they have sharp teeth, and they're fast, and they're funny. How could you not love an orca? Seriously. Like, they're so cool. So basically that's where his passion started. He just got really into marine life. He got really into like all the information that any aquarium had to offer him. You know, he just wanted to know more and more and more. So he made it kind of like his main thing when he was a kid. And then he goes on to just talk about how like he and his family would go back like every year for vacation to SeaWorld, and he would just go ask the trainers like every question that he could ever think of, you know. Like, this is definitely like an enthusiastic, passionate person. Like, I identify with this guy because I'm the same way, you know. So I so totally just appreciate John Hargrove just like for his character. You can tell that he's just a really passionate, really devoted person, you know. And then he kind of gets a little older. He's able to talk to somebody at SeaWorld about what sort of requirements you have to meet in order to be a trainer like that. And they told him you have to have a degree in psychology, which is understandable, especially since what we were talking about in the last video definitely like has some like very key psychology things that like you should know how to do, you know. So degree in psychology. Did they want a degree in marine biology too? No, I can't remember. But you also had to pass a swim test because those pools in the stadiums are like, you know, 30 or 40 feet deep. And you have to be able to swim all the way down to the bottom of that pool. And that is deep water, man. They talk about like what the pressure does to your like sinuses and your eardrums and stuff, and how like There's like a wasp flying around out there, and I'm like so paranoid that it's gonna get in here because I have the door open. Oh well. Anyways, they talk about what a kind of a crazy experience it is to like dive that deep, and it's kind of nuts because, you know, your eardrums pop, your head has to like get used to the pressure, so you definitely have to pass a swim test, you know, and all of that stuff. It's almost like you get a little bit worried in chapter 1 because he had such an affection for SeaWorld when he was young, and you can tell that, you know, and that's what SeaWorld tries to get out of young people, you know, like they're trying to trigger a response in young children, you know, and stuff like that. So it worked. He fell under SeaWorld's spell, but you're almost kind of alarmed in chapter 1 because you're like, John, you're speaking kind of highly about SeaWorld in this book. I don't appreciate it. It's important to know that the way he used to feel about SeaWorld and the way he feels about SeaWorld now is very, very different. And that's completely understandable. You know, if you look on SeaWorld's website and YouTube channel and all of that stuff, you'll see how they're like, John Hargrove contradicts himself. Back in 2010, he said that he loved working for SeaWorld. And you just gotta remember, it's 2015. And 2010 was 5 years ago. Think about the way you thought about things 5 years ago. Do you have all the same opinions about stuff that you had 5 years ago? Probably not. I know that I don't, so. But that's definitely an important thing to realize when you're reading chapter 1. That was then, this is now, and he felt very differently about SeaWorld back then. And then chapter 2 is called The Fantasy Kingdom of SeaWorld. And chapter 2 is a pretty fascinating chapter because not only does John finally get a break and get accepted to be an apprentice at SeaWorld, so he's very excited about that. This is where his career begins, you know, things like that. But he's learning about the history of SeaWorld and the first orcas that started this whole morbid tradition. And so he's kind of telling us how it all began. And it's pretty shockingly barbaric, the methods that they used to capture the first whales. It's pretty shocking. I just want to read you like this whole entire passage right here. I'm gonna do it. Don't get bored. You won't be bored. It'll be really interesting. Basically, you have Shamu, which was one of their first whales, and it's like now every show that you go see at SeaWorld is still called the Shamu show, even though Shamu, the real original Shamu, is no longer even alive, you know. And there have been many whales that they call Shamu to the public, and when that whale has a baby, that'll automatically be baby Shamu, you know, even though actually those characters are dead and gone. But anyway, so there's Shamu. There's also a whale named Namu, and I want to read you a little bit about this whale. So John says, for all of SeaWorld's lovely mythology about orcas and humans getting along, the relationship is, well, complicated. The historical realities behind the fantasies are harsh. When Namu was trapped in the nets off the coast of Canada, members of his family pod gathered around him trying to figure out how to free him. Because orcas in the wild, they don't just roam around by themselves. They live and travel in pods. The mothers and grandmothers are usually like the matriarchs of those pods, and whales stay with their mothers their entire lives long, you know, like they have a very strong family unit, and that is something to remember as you're reading this book. So he says, as Griffin, which was one of the main SeaWorld people at the time, as Griffin transported him to Seattle by way of an ocean pen towed by a boat, a number of orcas surrounded him, but were unable to solve the problem of setting Namu free. And I don't think that they really do it that way. Well, they don't capture whales in the wild anymore at all now. But when they last were capturing whales, they were putting them into like little whale hammocks, you know, and taking them clear up out of the water and then transporting them by boat where they still weren't, you know, still dragging the whale in the water behind the boat. You know what I mean? It goes on to say, Namu himself emitted what one person recalled as painful shrieks and cries. Eventually, most of the bigger orcas, probably males, slipped away, leaving Namu alone with only the company of 3 whales, an older female and 2 younger ones, probably his mother and his siblings. That's just so heartbreaking to me. Can you just imagine like somebody dragging your child away and you are like running after them for like miles and miles until you finally can't chase them anymore? Like, that's so sad to me, right? It says, they stayed with him as long as they could. They too finally slipped away, unable to rescue him. Namu did not live beyond the year in which he was captured. Suffering from a bacterial infection, he rammed his head against the side of the pool in Griffin's Seattle aquarium. He drowned. Some accounts say he was trying to escape. Others said he was confused and addled by the illness. Griffin was also heartbroken, and over the decades, he would tell reporters again and again that he missed Namu intensely. But he continued to hunt down whales, using explosives to herd them into areas where they could be netted. Several whales died at various stages of the capture process, including mothers killed in order to make it easier to take away their calves. And while SeaWorld officially says it now regrets the way it got a hold of its first whales, that they were the victims of cruel methods, there is no doubt that Griffin supplied the marine park with the first several animals that made the company's fortune, including the whale, whose name is chanted and cheered at the parks with every show. Shamu herself did not have a happy ending. Griffin had sent her onto SeaWorld because he said she and Namu turned out to dislike each other. Shamu was also recovering from trauma. Griffin had harpooned and killed her mother during the capture. Shamu had seen it happen. That is crazy. Why do we support people that do this? I don't know. And then here's yet another account of whales being violent towards people. Whales in captivity being violent towards people, that is. There's never been any record of whales being violent towards people in the wild. But anyways, this says, on April 19th, 1971, SeaWorld decided to use Shamu in a promotional photo session with a model dressed in a bikini. The model, a secretary at SeaWorld, was to take 3 rides on Shamu, but by the second ride, the whale was showing signs of annoyance. On the 3rd ride, Shamu refused to follow a command, and, in the ensuing confusion, the model fell into the water. The whale bit her on the lower torso and limbs, and for several minutes refused to let her go. Damn. The model survived the attack but spent several days in the hospital where she received more than 100 stitches. She was scarred for life. In the ensuing lawsuit, SeaWorld provided documents that revealed that Shamu had bitten 2 people before, including a trainer, but no one had warned the model. Of course not. Why would they do that? So there's all of that. And then they kind of go into like the duties, you know, that the apprentices had at the park. It's just regular everyday stuff, you know, like measuring out the amount of food that each whale gets on a daily basis, you know, and preparing their fish and making sure that their tanks and the surrounding environments are clean, that the food prep area is clean, you know, just like the day-to-day stuff of taking care of an orca behind the scenes. And then chapter 2 kind of leaves off with John explaining how he gets to be an intern at SeaWorld San Diego, which is like his huge ultimate dream. So that's where it kind of leaves you off. And I hope that you guys enjoyed examining chapters 1 and 2 with me. I am enjoying this book immensely. If you haven't gotten a copy of this book yet, you need to go pick up your copy right now because it's a great book. And besides hearing about the truth about what SeaWorld does, I also enjoy like learning about orcas through John's perspective. Like, it's just really interesting, and I think that you will like it. I hope that y'all enjoyed this video. I'm going to be going through the entire book like this, so I hope that you guys will get your copy and join along with me and join the movement to boycott SeaWorld, because it needs to be done. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you all are having a lovely day, and I hope that you don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and jump on the love train with us. Woo woo! Also, come follow me on Facebook at facebook.com/littlehipster. I can also be found on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. So come find me. I'm also on Snapchat and Spotify. Everywhere. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you all have a wonderful day, and don't forget to eat your fruits and vegetables. Bye-bye. All right, guys, can you see me? Probably not. I just got out of work, and I am in the park right now because I'm meeting some of the girls. We've been doing this thing lately where we bring a bottle of wine to the park, and we just sit here by the bathrooms. There they are. And we drink our wine. Yeah, so that's what we're doing. Wine night. Hello! All right, let's get this party started. Girls' night.